Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the LinkedIn Lunch live stream. I got it. I got it the first try. LinkedIn Lunch live stream here on the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel. Good to see you all here. Whether you are watching this live or watching this later, hopefully it's beneficial to you and helpful to you in your journey as a junior developer or as a mid or senior level developer, whatever actually, whoever it helps. That's what we care about really, is that it helps somebody. So if you are watching live, take a look at the chat, jump in there and say hello. Let us know where you're watching from, if you're new or if it's been a while since you've been here, and I probably won't remember where you're from if it's been a while. So my brain doesn't work that well anymore, quite frankly, as you can tell when you watch me write code. So there you go. But welcome back. Hopefully that you find this information helpful and interesting as we go. Welcome, Ian. Good to see you there. You've been hanging out for like 30 minutes, I think, on the chat. He's always the first one in, saying hello on all of our live streams. So welcome back, Ian. Good to see you. As always, if you're watching live, again, jump in the chat, say hello, and because although we'll be looking at LinkedIn, obviously, the whole goal of this is to interact with you guys, to hear your feedback and your questions, and just try to be helpful to you all in the best way possible. So if you do have a question and you're watching live, leave it in the chat and write at Dev Mentor Dave in front of it. That just gives a little like red notification so I see it. That way it's easier for me to see what you're asking, and I can jump in there and and answer your questions. So there you go. You just turn it off and wait for sound. Yeah, eventually something will come on. Either that or nothing will happen, and you'll see some message about me canceling at the last minute. Unfortunately, that does happen. Howdy, Rex. Good to see you. It's been a while, I think, since you've been around, if I remember correctly. So anyway, we do this every Tuesday and Thursday, hopefully, at 1 p.m. Central United States time. We're just going to go through some LinkedIn posts that I found and thought were interesting. Just as a reminder, as we're going through these posts, the information that I give you is my opinion based on my experience. I may agree with, I may disagree with some of the information that's posted here in these posts, and that's okay. You may agree with me or disagree with me. Feel free to share your experiences and your mockery in the chat if you would like. So certainly feel free to join in on that, and I will tell you why you're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Most of the time, I think most of us agree on most of the things. So there you go. But we'll be taking a look at several different posts. And just as a reminder, I don't spend a lot of time like reading the posts. Usually I'll pick a post that looks interesting based on a quick glance. So there might be lots to a post that we may not cover. There might be just a little bit that we go over depending on the content and whether or not I feel like it's something that's advantageous once we get into it. So just for those of you who might be new to the LinkedIn Lunch live stream, that's kind of what we do here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, if you have a question about something, certainly feel free to throw it in the chat, and I prefer to answer your questions even more than going through LinkedIn. The LinkedIn thing's just to kind of give us a starting point to have conversations. So certainly feel free to ask any questions that you have along the way, or again, share your opinion about anything that we go over. All right, let's see, a little bit of talking here. Yeah, I'm still doing the Saturdays most of the time. So this Saturday will be the last Saturday in December that we do it because of the holidays. So this coming Saturday will be a live stream from 10 a.m. to noon. The Saturday live streams have changed a little bit because we're actually actively into the process of the Deep Pockets project. We are spending some time more on PR reviews and things like that. Not as much time on training, teaching stuff as we did earlier on in that project. And so, in fact, this last Saturday was a pretty long time in the code base, actually, because I ended up spending some time showing you guys kind of what I would expect for one of the PRs, as well as making a lot of mistakes and showing you how to debug your mistakes along the way. So I think it turned out pretty well. I think hopefully it was helpful to everyone who was there watching at the time or who has watched it since. But yeah, we're still doing that on Saturdays, and probably Saturdays we'll have time for more Q&A and also probably some more other content. You know, if I have a specific topic I want to talk about, we'll do that on Saturdays as well. So Saturday has not gone away, Rex. It's just kind of changed and morphed a little bit over time, and probably will again in the future. So we just added this LinkedIn lunch live stream to give us some other things to talk about, to take a look at some other ideas and concepts and advice that's out there for junior developers or even mid and senior level developers, around all kinds of different things. A lot of it around getting a job, a lot of it around, you know, how you go about practicing and learning and growing. So I'm constantly looking for more things to add to this LinkedIn profile's list of following people, so that we can get some more content that's wider variety. So hopefully we'll see a more wide variety as we go here in the future as well. So welcome, Kelly. Good to see you. Welcome back. I think both Ian and Kelly were on the Saturday live stream, if I remember correctly. So we did have somebody show up on the Saturday live stream that at like the last 5 minutes or even less, right when I was getting ready to sign off, and they're like, oh, I think it was like Ian something, I forget. But anyway, so that's what we're doing, Rex, just to kind of get you caught up on what's going on here on the channel. Also, I kind of mentioned this on Saturday, our last live stream on Saturday. In 2025, I will be working on some extra projects, either for myself or for pay from someone, or for like a charity or something like that. But I'm going to actually do a live stream probably on Monday nights, where I will be just basically coding. It's just a hangout where I'm going to be working on a project, talking to you about what I'm doing, why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, if I have a reason other than that's the way I've always done it. And if you have questions, we can talk through that. So it's just going to be a hangout, and then you can watch me struggle as I try to learn new things and try to become a better developer myself. So hopefully that's somewhat interesting to some people. It seems like some people enjoy watching me struggle, so we'll give them some more opportunities at that here in 2025. So I see, that's something I was actually talking to somebody at work yesterday, because I had to go into the office, and I was just telling them kind of the interesting way that things have evolved over the year plus that I've been doing this. So I've been doing this about a year and 3 months or so, something like that. And just the things that I wanted to do with the channel and that I plan to do with the channel, and then just over time seeing what other people are interested in seeing, it just kind of it's interesting to watch that evolution and see how what you guys want, how different that is from what I wanted to do. And at the end of the day, what I want to do is provide what you want and what you need, not just sit up here and talk about the things that I want to do. So otherwise the channel isn't helpful. And at the end of the day, the channel needs to be helpful. Otherwise it's kind of a waste of my time, because I'm not in here doing this every day as a full-time job. So the goal is to be helpful. So whatever is the helpful thing, that's what we want to try to do. So that's why we're going to add that new thing in 2025, doing some more live coding. And it'll be an opportunity for me to learn too. So it'll be an opportunity for you guys to see maybe how I learn, how I pick up some new things. There's some stuff that I want to learn from a development standpoint, languages and frameworks and things like that I've not used before, that I want to add to my arsenal. And so there's definitely going to be plenty of struggle. I need to come up with a name for that time, that live stream session, since we've got our LinkedIn lunch live stream and then our Saturday live stream. Probably need a better name for the Saturday live stream too. I don't know. We were calling it the Deep Pockets live stream, but it's kind of morphing a little bit on that one. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like. But anyway, let's jump over to LinkedIn here and take a look at some of these posts. Let's see. Yeah, let's start with this one. All right. So the first thing we've got up here is a statement: with the AI tools gaining popularity with each passing day, it's become increasingly critical to also learn how to use AI the right way. Totally agree, 100%. This is really where I've been for quite a while when it comes to AI, especially with junior developers. AI is becoming much more ubiquitous, and as much as I've even fought it, I'm starting to just give in, quite frankly, to AI being a part of my life, and being able to use it and find good ways to use it is really, really important. And because you can use it the wrong way, and you can use it in a way that is not going to help you long term. That is the key. You want to learn how to use AI not just for quick answers, but how to use it in a way that's going to be sustainable. Even as we are developing projects for the companies that we work for at my job, AI is becoming a much bigger part of that process, and trying to figure out how best to integrate AI, how best to integrate large language models and generative AI and things like that into these projects, not just for the sake of using AI, not just for the sake of being able to say we have AI in our application, but what is it actually going to be most useful for? How is it going to help the end user actually be more productive, get more things done, make more money, right? At the end of the day, that's what most businesses are looking for. They're looking for new ways to make more money. And even as a developer, what we should be looking for is, how is this going to help me be a better developer? Not just how is this going to do my job for me. And I know a lot of junior developers are really oftentimes scared about AI taking their jobs. The reason I don't think AI will take really hardly any jobs is because it's not a real developer. It can generate stuff based on what it's been told, but it's not a real developer. You need to have somebody who can actually think through the process and the problem, and then communicate maybe with AI to get a fast solution or to get some code. Now, I've used AI recently on a problem that I was having, that I knew basically what I wanted to do, so I could describe it pretty well, but I didn't know the best way to do that from a code standpoint. And this was actually dealing with a SQL query. So I was trying to figure out what was the best way to handle what I was trying to do with a SQL query. And so I did. I threw that into, I think I was using Claude at the time, Claude AI, and I was able to, because I'm a developer and I understand how development works, I was able to explain to AI what I wanted to do better than somebody who's not a developer. So you're still going to need to be a trained developer to be able to use AI effectively to build these applications. It's not just going to magically be able to come up with a way to develop stuff for businesses that meet their needs. You've got to understand how programming works in order to make AI helpful to you as a developer, as a development organization. So yeah, this post is talking about using it the right way. Now he goes into some other details here, and this is a post really from looks like a Python developer community. But let's just take a look at some of the things that he has to say here. Always question the answers. AI suggests, you decide, and the final responsibility is yours. That is really, really huge. This statement right here, AI suggests, you decide, and the final responsibility is yours. Like, that is the thing I think that most people don't think about when it comes to using AI in their projects, or when it comes to trying to replace developers with AI. Because at the end of the day, the person who uses AI is the one who's responsible for how that code works and what that code does. It's not AI's fault, because AI is just a machine. It doesn't understand everything. It doesn't know all the ramifications of what it's writing. And so when you use AI, it's your responsibility to recognize that that is you basically saying this is good code. And if you don't know if that's good code, again, this is why I don't think it's going to take over dev jobs, because we need real devs to be able to evaluate the code that AI gives you. I have had to tweak almost every piece of code I've ever had. No matter how well I describe the scenario or the situation, I've always had to tweak the code that came out of any AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude AI or whatever it is. You always have to evaluate it. You always have to understand it. You can't just take AI code, stick it in your code base, and assume that it's going to be good. You are responsible for basically saying this does exactly what it's supposed to do. Now, if you can describe things well, AI can get you 80% there, maybe even 90% there. It can do a lot of heavy lifting for you. But at the end of the day, you are the one responsible for that code that goes into your project. Let's see, take a look here. We've got some yeah, Kelly says, yeah, exactly. You should know what you really want to ask AI. Exactly. You have to be the one who knows. You have to direct AI, right? A friend of mine, actually, it does a lot more with AI than I do. And he was just telling me some of the different things that he was dealing with AI, and just trying to generate a type of image, right? And trying to explain to AI and trying to even help AI learn just in the ChatGPT console better what he was trying to say. And it's a very iterative process. AI is not perfect. It's not going to get it right the first time, and you're probably not going to get it right the first time when it comes to trying to figure out what is the right prompt to give to this AI to get the thing that I want back. It's an iterative process. It's going to take time, and really that takes time every time. It's not just something that you learn once and you're done. Now, there are obviously things you can do as far as setting up groups of prompts and things like that that'll help you do the same general thing every time. But most of the time, as developers, we're dealing with something different every time we go ask for help, right? And so it's easy for us to think that, oh well, we just copy paste and that's the best answer. But you're probably going to have to ask multiple times for different things, or tell it to tweak it in this way or tweak it in that way. And that's really great that we have that opportunity to do that. We can just actually tell someone, hey, do this, change this, and then it prints it out for us and we can copy paste it. But at the end of the day, you've got to know what your code is doing. So you have the final responsibility. All right, so here's some risks that he lists out. Blind trust, always trusting AI generated code. Don't assume that it's flawless. Exactly. Vague prompts. Yeah, this is important. So, and this, again, it gets back to you have to know what you're asking, right? So the more clear and detailed the input is of your prompt, the better it is going to be. Your better response is going to be from the AI, right? So if you don't even know what you're looking for, you're not going to get the result that you want, right? So you've got to have clear prompts. Ignoring edge cases, tests for scenarios AI might miss. So this is another area where I am just more and more becoming a fan of test-driven development and the integration of tests in your development process. I know, having written code for over 20 years now and been doing this professionally for about 15. Man, has it been that long? Yeah, wow. Uh, so most of my life has not included writing tests, just to be perfectly honest with you. And I am more and more becoming convinced that tests are necessary for a good development process. And so one of the ways that you can help your use of AI is to write your own tests and write them for every scenario you can think of. Because again, AI doesn't know the rest of your code base. It doesn't understand necessarily, even if you're using something like Copilot that does have a connection with your code base, that doesn't mean that it has a perfect understanding of how everything flows and the desired usage of it. So you're gonna have to make sure that it covers the code that it generates covers all the different aspects of what you're trying to get done. And again, some of that comes from your explanation to AI as well. Um, Over reliance, use AI as guidance, not a replacement for analysis. That's also very key. Yeah, if you put code in there and be like, tell me where the bug is, um, that's fine. That's helpful. But don't assume that it caught everything. Don't assume that it's giving you the best possible answer on that question. Audit your code for vulnerabilities like hard-coded secrets, right? It is amazing to me how often people will just grab like the whole output from ChatGPT or the whole output from Claude or some other AI and just stick it in their code base. It just blows my mind. They don't even hardly think about it. It seems like, and can be huge security risks when you do that. Um, this next one's pretty good too. Complex solutions. AI can oftentimes do that. Your especially your initial items your initial responses could be pretty verbose, and you might have to even tell it to simplify it more. Um, yeah, optimization. Again, the AI doesn't know necessarily unless you give it a massive list of parameters. The AI just doesn't know what your environment necessarily is. It doesn't know what limitations you might have from that environment. Um, there's so much that goes into programming in regards to knowing your environment, knowing how you're wanting to use it. It's not just about writing code. And so, yeah, you definitely are going to have some issues probably from a speed and efficiency standpoint. Um, yeah, if you're using AI incorrectly, you won't actually be learning anything. That is one thing I do like about Claude. If you've never used Claude, I don't know if I have. Have I used Claude with DevMint or Dave? I don't think I have. Boop, doop, ba-doo. All right, so let me switch here. All right, if you've never used Claude, I feel like Claude is better for technical stuff and for learning, right? So if I do something like, how do I make a model for cars in Laravel? All right, so I'm going to do that. So I really like this layout, and I think there's like different types of of models, obviously LLM models, and so they're going to give you different types of responses with that. But I really like this because it gives you a solution over here, but it also like walks through the information. Of course, you can always ask it to walk through it more if you have a question about something, right? So, but it's giving me the answer, but then it's telling me, what it's actually creating. And here, actually, it's doing a couple different things. So we've got a migration file that it's given us, saying because you're going to need a migration file for your model. So that's good. We're doing a make model car. Um, that's the code over here. But here's our migration that we would need. It tells you to run the migrate, and then we can use the model to be able to create and find and all those different things, right? So like I really like Claude for technical stuff. If anybody else has any AI that they think is better or helpful, I just feel like this is really helpful, at least for me, in some of the stuff that I've done. So that would be my recommendation. But even with this, like there's still problems where you might not really be learning. You can have something like this, but are you using it the way that you should use it? Don't just take something like this, come over here and copy it and paste it into your project. Like actually go through this stuff, actually read through what it's telling you so that you actually learn what it's trying to teach you, and you can then take that and use that in the future, and you're not just coming in here and copy pasting. So I totally agree with this statement about AI being a problem when it comes to learning, right? You need to be a learner, and you need to be growing in your understanding of development so that you can test AI and so that you can tell AI what to do better. So take advantage of those ones that like Claude that give you the opportunity to learn and not just copy paste a result in there. I know ChatGPT sort of does that some too, but I don't know. I just feel like Claude lays it out better than ChatGPT does. Maybe there's another way of doing that in ChatGPT that's helpful. But yeah. Kelly, as a junior dev, is it okay if I ask AI for database tables and relationships I would need for a specific project I have in mind? Um, yeah, again, as Ian says there, yes, but check the work and make sure you understand it. So, oops, go back. Boom, there we go. So make sure that you're understanding what it's printing out to you. Um, Make sure that it makes sense and you can follow it. I don't know if you can ask it for a graph. I've never done that before, but there are going to be things that you just don't know yet as a junior developer. But always, and so AI would be helpful in spilling that out for you. But always seek to understand what you're getting. If it's something new that you're asking for help with, again, I would use something like Claude. Try to get something back from that explains to you what it is that you don't know yet, right? So, well, I mean, we've got time. Let's just go back here to Claude. Here we go. All right, let's go back to Claude. And let's just ask it a question. So let's ask it something like, create let's do this. Create a database schema for cars, makes, and models, and explain how the relationships work. We'll see what Claude comes back with here. All right, so we've got some code here. Let's see what happens. It's still thinking. And this is doing it in Laravel again because contextually I asked it to give me something in Laravel before. All right, that's annoying. So let's scroll back up here. So let me explain the relationship in schema design. Makes table. So the makes table represents car manufacturers like Toyota, Ford, contains basic information about the make, one-to-many relationship. So here it's describing how they're connected to each other, right? And here's the car table. It represents, so it's going to walk you through what this stuff means if you ask it to, right? And so we have the code here. We've got, these are our migrations. I'm sorry, this is the actual usage of the relationships. But yeah, so key benefits of this design: it maintains data integrity, allows for easy querying of relationship navigation. So it's giving you some helpful understanding of why do it this way, right? Why is this an accepted way? Of course, this is pretty much the way that you would do it in Laravel. Again, you'd set up these tables and these relationships. Coming over here, here's our migrations over here. We can go to, oh, that's the car model here. Hang on. Car, make, model, relationships. So car extends model, and it belongs to a make and it belongs to a model, right? So, and again, I might change this. Well, I guess model probably you can't do because of, yeah, that. But you can always change things that if it gives you something that doesn't make sense, change it around, right? But this is the important thing here, is being able to ask it questions to explain itself. Take advantage of that. Don't just ask it to give you something. Ask it to explain why it's giving you what it's giving. And that might open up opportunities not only for you to learn, but even opportunities for you to catch something that maybe is not what you're really looking for. But at first glance, it might look like it is what you're looking for. But the more you dig into it, if you're asking it to explain what it's doing, you might catch a flaw in the logic as it's even describing that to you. So you can sometimes catch some issues in the explanation before you catch them in the code itself. So definitely always test it if you're going to use AI. All right, a couple more things here. Outdated libraries. That's something very true, especially. Sorry. Doop, doop, doop. Too many screens or settings or whatever we call these. There we go. All right. So outdated libraries, you definitely want to watch out for that, especially since most of us are probably using the free version of things, and so they're not always updated with the most recent documentation. Um, Especially like Laravel. I think ChatGPT was one or two versions of Laravel behind last time I looked at it. I think it's one version behind. So you want to use the most recent stuff if you can, right? So that's something to be careful of when you're looking at using AI. Yeah, and then also conventions, right? So it's going to write however it's been trained to write, so that may not match your convention. So make sure that you update it to match um, how that works in your company. Yeah, exactly, Ian. Some of the libraries might be deprecated or parts of them. Absolutely. I thought this was humorous. Before ChatGPT, developer coding for 2 hours and debugging for 6 hours. Now ChatGPT codes for 5 minutes and you spend 24 hours debugging. So that is unfortunately something that can happen for sure. Well, the problem is because they're using ChatGPT instead of Claude, right? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's behind when it comes to Laravel for sure. All right, let's take a look here. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. This is I don't know if I just got caught on memes today or what, but here's another here's another one that I thought was interesting, but also helpful for us when it comes to being a good developer in many ways, not just leads here. But check this out. All right, so we'll go to jump to the meme first. It says Michael Scott here. Why don't you explain this to me like I'm five? Right. Um, the post here says one of the most helpful things I picked up as a developer is creating user stories. Now, if you're not familiar with user stories, those got really popular um, in the um, project management world. I don't know how far back it goes. User story specifically goes. Most of the integration of user stories I've seen has been with the agile process and the um, oh, what's that called? I can't think of it. Um, there's a methodology on top of agile that kind of gets added to agile most of the time. Um, oh shoot, I can't think of it. Anyways, and they have this like very depending on what company you work for, they often have like this template that you have to fill out, and it's like, hey, make sure as an admin, I would like to do such and such and such a thing, right? It's often very verbose and annoying, to be quite frank. But that doesn't mean that the concept of user stories is a bad thing. And so, David here is saying one of the most helpful things I've picked up as a developer is creating user stories. Now, as a junior developer, even as a mid-level developer, you may not be the one in charge of creating user stories. That often falls to project managers, or it falls to lead developers usually, to go in and actually create the user stories. But being able to think through the process of creating a user story is extremely helpful for every developer, in my opinion. Um, Even whether you're dealing with other developers or whether you're dealing with a client. So you could be dealing with like a freelance client or something like that. And being able to think in terms of user stories can be really, really helpful in not only taking what they've said and turning it into productive tickets, but also communicating what you are working on to them in a way that they understand. So learning to think in user stories can be very helpful. Um, so the idea there of a user story is thinking in terms of the person who's using the application. So as an admin, I want to be able to create, edit, and delete users for the application, right? Something like that. So in our minds as developers, we know that we're going to take that information, we're going to create CRUD, right? We're going to create the CRUD for users. We're going to create the backend models. We're going to create the backend controllers. We're going to create the back-end API endpoints. We're going to create the front-end forms and lists or tables or whatever it is that we're going to use to be able to do all those things. And so that user story may be a larger user story. You might break that down into smaller pieces then. I've always found that most user stories are much more general than they are, as far as like general concepts, than they are helpful for getting all the details of what you need to get done. I have worked in some organizations where they were very verbose and very that included a lot of technical things. In my opinion, user stories should be more from the client to the development team, and then the development team should make their own stories based on the details that they need to do. That's my opinion of how it should work. But being able to take that concept from the client and say, okay, the client wants to do X, right? They want to be able to create, update, delete, see a list of users, and be able to take that and then break that down into manageable pieces of work. Even if you're just a junior developer, that's a huge skill, because what that will allow you to do is it'll allow you to work in almost any environment. I'll just be honest with you. I've worked with some developers who were senior level developers, but unless you broke down all the different things that they needed to do in a ticket, they didn't always take the time to think through that process and figure out everything that they would need. They would just look at the list of things that need to be done, and they would do those things, and then you end up with kind of half the issue actually worked. You can really help out your lead or your project manager or whoever's building out the tickets. You can really help them if you can decipher what needs to be done based on a more general user story type of ticket. If you can go in there and then kind of add this is a list of things that I need to do to make sure that this happens. Now, sometimes you have to ask questions and you have to find out, hey, do you want to be able to see this way? Sometimes you'll have to wait on some design, for some of the front end stuff, but from a back end perspective, you might be able to just kind of start knocking it out because you know all the things that you need. So there's definitely more involved in the user story, typically, such as what information needs to be stored, all that stuff. But the ability to distill that, and that's what David's talking about here, the ability to distill that user story down into actual tasks is hugely beneficial for you as the developer. It's beneficial for your team, especially if you're working with somebody who is newer, who is a junior developer, to be able to help walk them through that process. This was actually probably the first thing that I really noticed about the first junior developer that I worked with, is that they weren't really trained in thinking through those steps, breaking those steps down. The first thing that I helped him out with was a ticket that was basically saying, we want, when you click on this button, we want something to happen. I forget what the actual thing was that they wanted to happen, but just the ability to take that, and that's actually fairly clear instructions, but to be able to take that and then break that down into actual things that you need to do in your application. And what we were doing is, I think we were actually using jQuery at the time, but basically we had to walk through, okay, so they said, when I click on this button, something should happen. Okay, so what's the first thing that we need to do? We need to make sure that we have a button, right? So if the button is not already there, we need to create the button, and we need to make sure that the button has the information, the title that we need in it. All right, and then when you click the button, so we need to have some sort of event listener that's listening for the click of the button. And when that happens, then we need to fire off some other function. So to be able to walk through and think through that process is really, really big. And a lot of developers just don't do that. They get a ticket and they get told, some tickets I've seen have the file where the change needs to be made, the line of code that needs to be updated, or where the lead thinks that you should be putting that code. Like, that's not good development. In my opinion, you are not a senior level developer if you have to be told all the different specifics of how to do something. Like, if a lead takes that much time telling you how to do it, they should have just done it themselves, because they pretty much spent the time doing that. if you want to be a good dev, if you want to be a dev who is trustworthy, reliable, gets things done well, you need to be a dev who can take a user story and understand it and break it down into all the different things that need to happen. Now, is that going to be perfect every time? No, it's not going to be perfect every time. I miss things all the time when I'm writing tickets based off of user stories, right? Just because you forget stuff, and you're going to miss things in the process. But learning to write user stories and learning how to distill them is hugely beneficial. So he says being able to take a technical task and distill it down in a way for everyone to understand is a much needed skill, especially when you're working with juniors and people who are not technical and need to have things Michael Scotted. All right. And again, so this isn't just about taking the user story and going back to technical. It's also taking your technical stories and being able to communicate back up to the client what that means, especially if your client has access to your Kanban board or whatever it is you're using, or ticket system, whatever you're using internally with your developers. If your client has access to that information, you definitely want to be able to explain that to them. If you've got very technical information in your ticket, you want to be able to kind of take that back up a level and explain to them why that's important, what it means, and how it fits into the overall user story and concept that they're trying to get done, whether that's an epic or just a single ticket, whatever that looks like. So definitely learn to write user stories, because that'll teach you how to think like the non-technical people, and then learn how to break those down into more technical requirements. And if you can do that, you will find yourself moving forward in your journey as a developer, I think, much more quickly, because it just makes you think through things better. Overall. Okay, this one is just for fun. I thought it was kind of cool. Um, I don't know. I don't know how long Mariah has been a developer. Well, I could probably find out. Let's find out. Let's see. Let's see here. Mm-mm-mm. Well, if I can learn how to use my computer. Joined in 2022. I don't know. I guess I have to be a friend to see their information. Oh, here we go. Experience. Design engineer, front end developer, full stack developer, front end developer, tattoo artist. So yeah, I mean, she's only been a developer for a couple of years, which in my opinion makes this even more impressive. Um, this is impressive to me because I'm not really that great at CSS, and so when I see this, um, this stuff is just cool. The fact that people have the time to work on stuff like this, but then have the imagination to come up with this stuff. Like I never would have in a million years probably even thought of doing anything like this. So I just think this is cool. No frameworks needed. That's also cool. Before jumping into Tailwind CSS or any other library, I made sure to master pure CSS first. That's why other styling tools come naturally to me now. CSS is in my blood. That's really, really important. Um, you've got to learn the basics. You've got to not just learn the basics, but you've got to master the basics of what you do, whether that's CSS, HTML, JavaScript, PHP, Java, C Sharp, whatever it is you're using. Um, learn it well. Learn it well in its base usage, right? Learn how to make event listeners with pure JavaScript, right? Learn how to code transitions with CSS. Learn how to build an API with PHP or Java without a framework, right? Learn how to do those things, because that will it will make learning those frameworks faster, because you'll understand why that is helpful to have that framework, but it'll also make you appreciate those frameworks even more, and it will help you see the shortcomings in those frameworks, and in areas where you may need to tweak and step outside of the framework, instead of spending hours and hours trying to figure out how to do something inside a framework. You'll have the opportunity to just take what you know and then put it into reality, right? So I really like the fact that she called out this idea of knowing the base information before you start using all the tools. Yeah, absolutely. And CSS has just become crazy. I mean, stuff that you could only do with JavaScript before is just like built into CSS now. So I've been hiding it. So let's take a look at what she built out here. So it's a hamburger, and you hover over it, and it's got all the different pieces of the hamburger, and they're rotating. I don't even know, like even looking at this, I'm just sitting here going, that is amazing. Like, how do you come up with the idea there? B, I don't even know how that is happening. Like, I assume those are images, or is that generated? Is all of that generated with CSS? I have no idea. And I went down to look at the comments, and there's nothing. Like I want a tutorial. Like, this is so cool to me. I want to go look at a tutorial somewhere, or get like a download of the code, just so I can see how she did that, because it's just very, very cool. I don't think there's anything in here. I didn't see anything in the responses or the comments that said, how it was done, or any link to a code base or something like that. But that would be really, really cool. Um, yeah, Kelly. I mean, it's just wild. It's crazy. The things that people see. These are the things that make me feel really inadequate as a developer, right? So I don't know how long Mariah studied development before she got her first job as a developer there 2 years ago, but and maybe it was years, maybe it was 5 years she's been doing this before she got her first job. I don't know. I'll have to see if I can find out more about her. But like, just to have even the thought or the creativity to come up with the concept, let alone then code it and actually make it work. Like, just the concept of, I'm gonna build a hamburger and have it split out open when I hover over it, and twist, and so you can see all the different pieces, layers of that. Like who thinks of that? Like, that just makes somebody like. So I've been doing development professionally and non-professionally for 20 years, over 20 years, and I look at stuff like this and people who have the creativity and the wherewithal to do that, and it just makes me think that I'm a terrible developer, quite frankly. Like, I just look at that and say, that's just an amazing talent, and it's probably not anything that I will ever really attain to be perfectly honest with you. I'm at a point in my career where I don't spend that much time actually writing code anymore. So I don't have the time to learn that stuff and to dig into it and to play with it as much. And so it's kind of disappointing, because I've reached a point in my career where I don't think I'll be doing something like that. So, that's a little frustrating, but it's cool to me that you see people out there who are doing these types of things. Do I know where you would put that in a project? No, but you know what? If you take those concepts and you put them on some website for a company, with some more thought and purpose behind it, like, that's something people go to a website and look at and play with, and that keeps people on your website longer. It keeps people's names it keeps your name in people's minds, So when you can do cool stuff like that, you can get your name in front of some people. So yeah, this is pretty cool. I really like this. Ian says, don't confuse front end talent with back end talent. That is very true. I will completely agree with you. There is a big difference between front end talent and back end talent. Back end, we tend to be a little bit more data driven than visually driven. So that's a good point. Thank you, Ian. You made me feel a little bit better, since I do probably lean towards the back end a little bit more. I do enjoy working on the front end. I'm just not that creative, man. That I just never would have come up with that. Sorry. All right, we got a few more minutes. Let's see if there's anything else here that might be shorter. There's one thing that I might tackle at a different time that I would go on a rant on, and I don't have the time for that. So, let's go with the next meme. um, here we go. It's all memes today. Boom. All right. So we've got a post here from Nick Haroldson, I guess. All right. It says this: years ago, I had a recruiter who took the liberty of changing my resume for me without my consent. They thought they were doing me a favor by enhancing it. I wasn't very happy with it, with what they did, and I couldn't trust that recruiter anymore. Don't lie on your resume. It will be discovered one way or another, and neither party will benefit from it in the end. All right. Ready for the meme? Here we go. He lied on his resume, but he got the job anyway. And I've given this illustration before, talking about the person that came in with Angular on their resume and not really having it. What's interesting is I have actually had recruiters help me with my resume before. I've never had somebody enhance it before. Usually what I've had recruiters do is they'll rearrange some things, they'll reorganize it in such a way that is, more in keeping with the things that the company wants to see. So I've never had anybody lie on my resume for me, as far as I know. And almost always they've sent it to me to check. So I would say it's probably fairly rare that this happens from a recruiter. But I think it's really important for you as a developer, as you're working on your resume. Nice one, Ian. As you're working on your resume, to make sure that you're not enhancing your resume. When you're talking about the impact that you had on previous, employers, like don't say something that isn't true. Especially if that employer is a reference, because they could always call your reference and find out if what you said was accurate. If you didn't increase the ROI by 35%, don't put that on your resume. And don't make a guesstimate about that. You just tell the truth about your experience, and tell the truth about things that you're willing to learn and wanting to learn in your journey, because most of the time you won't get the job, so like this statement, he still got the job anyway. Like, the problem is, if you lie on your resume, most likely you're not going to get the job, because you're going to get found out in the interview process. And that's just not, like, you don't want to, there's no reason to blacklist yourself simply because you wanted to look better than you are. And frankly, that will happen. There are people that we blacklisted in companies that I've worked for in the past because their resume didn't match their actual experience. So more than likely you're not going to get the job if you enhance it, but just don't do it. Don't take that risk, because you might end up like this cat, being tasked with something that you don't really know or you don't have experience in. So the worst thing, not the worst thing, but one of the worst things that can happen to you is you get a job and they tell you, hey, do this, and they expect it within a certain amount of time, and you have no idea what you're doing. Now, in today's day and age, you can probably bluff a lot better than we used to be able to in the past with AI, but don't do that either, because that's not actually helping you be the person that you're supposed to be, and that's not helping the company have trust and faith in your skills outside of this extra help from AI. Ian says, one time a recruiter lied on my resume that they sent to a company. I chewed the recruiter up one side and down the other. Then he sent the company exactly what I'd sent him. Well, at least they made it right and showed that it was their fault. That's good. But yeah, that breaks trust. Absolutely. Like, if there's any recruiters watching this, don't know why you are, but if there's any recruiters watching this, please don't do that. Like, developers tend to, in my opinion, most developers tend to underestimate their skills. There are some who overestimate their skills, but most of the developers I've worked with and interacted with underestimate their skills. So I can definitely see why there might be opportunities to be more truthful than we might be, or be more exact than we might be because we're trying to not oversell ourselves. Um, but you definitely want to make sure that everything you put on there is true. Um, if you can, I think there's great rearranging your. I'm jumping around from thoughts. Sorry, rearranging your resume and changing your resume and rewording your resume in a way that will hopefully resonate with a specific employer is not bad or wrong. The problem comes in when you put information in there that isn't true. All right, that's the main issue. So definitely go through and try to tweak and let a recruiter help you with tweaking your resume to fit what a company is looking for. Maybe leave out things that are not necessary to be a part of your resume, or add things that you didn't think about but are part of your history to your resume that would be something that resonates with that company. So definitely take advantage of those opportunities, and even ask the recruiter to help you with finding those opportunities so that you can put your best foot forward. Now, most of the time, if you're going through a recruiter, there's more interaction there than just putting your resume into like a LinkedIn job post or something like that. Generally, you have a better chance of getting your resume in front of somebody if it's coming through a recruiter, at least in my experience. But you definitely want to make sure that you're asking for help and even giving them that idea. Sometimes recruiters don't even think about that. They just send your resume in as is. Ask them to look for any errors, spelling errors or things like that. Things that just don't make sense. Because sometimes, let's be honest, oftentimes when you're writing a resume, you're writing it in a time where you're not thinking clearly. And the reason for that is because you're probably writing your resume or updating your resume because you've lost a job. So you're going to miss things as you go through that process. So definitely ask for help from your recruiter. They should be able to do that to help you find some of those things. But don't just let them rewrite it completely, and make sure you always get a view of that before it gets sent out to the company. Kelly says, "What about us junior devs that are desperate for a job? Wouldn't a little lie help us get closer to the job?" I'm the kind that's willing to adapt. Nope, because it's just going to hurt you. It's just going to hurt you later. Once you get into the job, you're not going to be able to do it, and that will become very clear. Unfortunately, companies hire junior developers expecting more than they say they can do. That's a problem with our industry, in my opinion, at the moment. So there's already an increased level of expectation above and beyond what you claim. So if you claim to do something more than you can do, you're just increasing that bar. You're raising that bar even higher, right? So here's what you say you can do. The company's going to say this. So if you say you can do this, well, they're going to think you can do that. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. When it comes to junior developers, part of that's because we've just got the whole process of hiring a junior developer and what's expected of a junior developer today it's mind-blowing to me as somebody who is self-taught 20 years ago. It amazes me the things that you have to know and understand and have worked with to get a job as a junior developer today. So the best thing that you can do as a junior developer is learn and have examples and the ability to talk about the examples of what you've learned and what you've built. For me, even with mid-level and senior level developers, my questions are more revolving around them explaining to me what they've done, what they've learned, what they've experienced, more than just the code and evaluating the code that they've written. I want to hear them explain, because when you explain something, that tells me how much you know about what you're explaining. So if you can explain something in fairly detailed manner as to your thought process, to what you did and your decisions that you made, why you made those decisions, how long things took you, what bugs you ran into. If you can talk through some of those things, and even still sound excited about writing code during that process, like you are the type of person that I would want on my team. Whether you are a junior and you have that level of knowledge and experience, or you're a senior and you have that level of knowledge and experience, you should be able to talk through what you've done, and be able to talk through things that you don't really necessarily know or understand. You might say, hey, I followed this design pattern, but I don't really get it yet. I'm hopeful to learn more about design patterns in the next job. Maybe ask them, what kind of design patterns do you use that I could learn more about and look up and make a part of my my development journey. So like there's always opportunities to interact around your ability to talk about what you've done. Just don't lie about what you've done on your resume or in person. So Ian says a resume can be altered to better show a fit between the person and the opportunity, but don't recommend lying. Absolutely. That's really what you're going for. You want to find a good fit, and you want your resume to reflect that fit as much as you possibly can. And so that, again, if you're working with a recruiter, they should be able to help you with that even more. Unless it's like an internal recruiter, they probably don't care as much. But if you're working with the third-party recruiter who's getting a commission from the company for filling that role, they're probably going to be more helpful in helping you get some of those things updated. So anyway, we just moved past the hour, so I need to jump off here and get back to my day job. So thanks everybody for jumping on and talking through some of these things. A meme-heavy day for this Tuesday. I don't know why, but they just caught my attention today. So hopefully it was entertaining and helpful and interesting all at the same time. And if you're watching later, feel free to leave some comments on the video. That always helps people see it more with the old YouTube algorithm. So if you haven't hit the like button for me. Again, just helps YouTube know people are interested in this and hopefully show it to some more people who just might be crazy enough to sit down and watch an hour-long video. So thanks for hanging out with me again, guys. I will see you most likely on Thursday at 1 o'clock. We'll do another LinkedIn lunch live stream. At least that's the plan for now, unless something crazy happens between now and then we'll see you on Saturday as well. So have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one.